felt like it's me, Reid Robin. I was cheery, I was bobbing. Just 7 mere sleeps, oh my. Object 6 coming your way. Watching twinkling fair afar, go mark for me a shining star. I hope you're managing this quest, marking me a fancy nest. New a tale for India, for Mara, Storyteller bra.
Hello everybody and welcome to this Christmas story. My name is Mara Menzies and the story that I have for you comes from far away from the land of India. It's an old story and it's a story about a poor old man whose name was Wali Dad. Now Wali Dad lived a very simple life. Every morning he would leave his simple little mud house and he would do a few odd jobs here and there in return for a few coins. And he would save one of those coins, and with the rest he would buy food, clothing, and he would use anything that was left over to help anybody around him who needed help. And so his life was lived like this for many years. But when he was quite elderly, he began to wonder how many coins he had managed to save. And so he reached under his bed, he pulled out that earthen pot, and his eyes just about popped out of his head because he hadn't realized how many coins he had managed to save. And he said, "What on earth am I going to do with all these coins? I don't need them. I live a nice simple life." So he went to the jeweler's and he saw a beautiful golden bracelet. He bought it. Now that night, he went to visit a rich friend of his, a merchant who lived on the other side of town. And he asked the merchant, "Tell me, in all of your travels, who is the one person that you have come across who you think has the kindest, most generous, most helpful soul?" Now the merchant had traveled far and wide and he knew exactly who she was. He told Wali Dad, "It is the Princess of Khaistan. She is beautiful, she is smart and intelligent, but the thing that people know her for and love her for is her kindness, because she helps anybody who is in need. She is the one that you are looking for." And so Wali Dad produced the golden bracelet and he handed it over to the merchant and said, "The next time you visit the kingdom of Khaistan, please gift this bracelet to the princess and tell her it is a gift from somebody who admires virtue more than he desires wealth." Well, the merchant chuckled. It wasn't a very normal request, but Wali Dad was his friend, and so he did as he asked. And the next time he was in the kingdom of Khaistan, he produced the little golden bracelet, he wrapped it and placed it in a little perfumed box, and he gifted it to the princess. Well, she was delighted with this gift. And she said, "Well, who is it from?" And he passed on the message. And she was so moved that she decided to return a gift to Wali Dad. Now the merchant was astonished because there was a camel laden with beautiful silks and satins. The princess thanked the merchant and asked him to return the camel to the giver of the gift. So the merchant did as she asked and went back to Wali Dad. And when he stood outside his little mud house and presented the camel to Wali Dad, well, he didn't know what to do. He said, "But I am an old man. I live a simple life. Look at my simple house. I have no need for a camel laden with silks and satins. What am I going to do with them? I need to find somebody else to gift them to. Now tell me, merchant, in all of your travels, who have you met who you feel is deserving of such a gift?" Now the merchant knew exactly who to propose. "In all my travels, from Baghdad to Constantinople to Lucknow, the person who I feel deserves this gift is the Prince of Nekabad. He is extremely generous and he is also kind-natured." "Then it is done," said Wali Dad. "Please take this camel to the prince and tell him it is from somebody who admires his worth and greatness." And so the merchant did as Wali Dad asked. And when the prince received this camel laden with such beautiful gifts, he was astonished. He said, "Where has this come from?" And Wali Dad's message was passed on. Now the prince was really moved, because we like hearing nice things about ourselves, don't we? And he thought to himself, how can I repay this kindness? And so he clicked his fingers and he ordered 10 horses with beautiful Moroccan saddles, silver stirrups and bridles. And he said, "Please return this as a gift to the person who sent me the camel." And the merchant did as he was asked. Well, Wali Dad was not expecting such a thing. Wow, 10 horses! What am I going to do with 10 horses and such beautiful, incredible gifts? Oh, it's too much, it's too much. And he told the merchant, "You take 2 of these horses and please send the rest to the Princess of Kaistan." The merchant did as he asked. And when the princess received this gift, she didn't know what to do. She said to her father, "Father, this person keeps giving me these amazing gifts and I don't know how to respond. What should I do?" And the king said, "Well, if you are feeling a little bit uncomfortable, then maybe you should give a gift that is so magnificent that they will be too embarrassed to return a gift." And the princess thought that was a good idea. But she was curious as to who this person was. And so she asked the merchant, "What is the giver of my gifts like?" Now the merchant was very good friends with Wali Dad, but he didn't want to portray him as a poor old man who lived in a little mud house. And so instead he told the princess about his kind nature, his generous soul, somebody who valued goodness and truth and beauty. And the princess was pleased. And so she ordered 20 mules. And piled high on the backs of these mules was gold and silver, jewelry, all kinds of magnificent gifts. And she gave the merchant a little gift for himself and sent him on his way. Well, you can imagine how Wali Dad's eyes just about popped out of his head. What am I going to do with these 20 mules and this treasure? Oh, please, merchant, you have to take it away. Send it all to the Prince of Nekabad. Take 2 of the mules for yourself, but please, this is too much for me. I don't know what to do with it. And so the gift was sent to the Prince of Nekabad, who couldn't believe his eyes. He said, "This gift is too much. The person who sent it must be an incredibly kind and generous person. They must be repaid." And so the gift that was sent back with the merchant was beyond your imagination. Imagine 20 beautiful horses and 20 of the finest camels. And on top of that, 20 elephants draped with silk, embroidered with pearls. It was a caravan of such magnificence that as they crossed the deserts back to Wali Dad's house, well, the merchant had to hire a small army to help keep it safe. And Wali Dad, he almost cried. Oh, 20 elephants, 20 camels, 20 horses. Please, merchant, take 2 of each and the rest gift them to the Princess of Kaistan. Well, she had no idea what to do. She said, "Father, your idea didn't work. Look at what has come in its place." And the king, her father, said, "This man is truly devoted to you. I'm sure that he wants to marry you. Surely, with all of these gifts that he sent, perhaps a meeting can be arranged." And so they decided to visit Wali Dad. Now the merchant, when he heard this, he was terrified. What was he going to do? What was he going to say? How could he present the king and the princess to this simple old man living in a little mud house? Oh, he prayed and prayed for help, but he knew that he had no choice. He had to take them through. And so they set off and they traveled for days and days. And just when they were 2 days away from Wali Dad's house, they decided to rest and they set up camp in the middle of the desert. And the merchant, he sped forward and he told Wali Dad, "The king and the Princess of Kaistan are coming to see you. I'm sorry, I tried to stop them. I tried to prevent this from happening, but they are insisting and I don't know what to do." And Wali Dad, he was beside himself. What was he going to do? What was he going to say? He was scared that he was going to get into huge trouble, that they would think that he was a thief of some kind. How could a simple man afford all of these magnificent luxuries? And he was so scared, he decided to run away. He left his little house and he headed out until he reached a great ravine. Now he looked up and down and he thought, how am I going to cross this ravine and get to the other side? This is a disaster. I wish I'd never sent that golden bracelet as a gift. I wish things were just back to how they were before. And just then, he felt a beautiful, gentle glow on his face. And when he opened his eyes, he saw 2 fairies. And they stroked his face and they stroked his head. And they said, "Tell us, old man, why are you here?" And Wali Dad told them the whole story. And the little fairies, well, they giggled and they laughed. They were delighted to hear this tale. And they put a hand on his shoulder, and suddenly Wali Dad found himself floating off the ground. His clothes began to change. They became beautiful embroidered linen, and on his feet were the softest, finest calf leather shoes. And then he was lowered to the ground, and the fairies said, "Turn." And when he turned back, he did not see his little mud house. He saw a magnificent golden palace shimmering in the sunlight. There were palm trees lining the pathway that led up to the front door. He saw servants milling around and he said, "What is this? What is this sorcery?" But it was no sorcery. The fairies said that all of this reflects the generosity of your soul. Go, this is your new home, Wali Dad. And so Wali Dad entered the palace, and the very next day the king and the princess of Kaistan arrived, and they were thrilled to see Wali Dad and to meet him and explore the grounds of his palace. And the king asked Wali Dad, "Tell me, all of these gifts that you sent my daughter, is it your intention to marry her?" And Wali Dad, he said, "Me? No, I am far too old and ugly for that. However, I do know somebody who is of a wonderful nature. It is the Prince of Nekabad." Immediately, they sent for him. And when the prince arrived, as soon as he set eyes on the princess, his face began to flush, his heart began to pound, and she felt the same way. They were immediately in love with each other. And a wedding was arranged, and they were married there and then in the palace and the grounds of Wali Dad. And of course, after the wedding, they all lived happily ever after. And they say that that palace that Wali Dad lived in is there to this day. And Wali Dad is supposed to still be around, wearing a simple linen robe and soft, simple shoes. But that palace, the doors and gates are open to anybody who needs a place to stay, who needs food to eat, who needs any help at all. And so the spirit, the generous spirit of Wali Dad lives on to this day.